has joined in or will join us later. That's all right. Right. Welcome everyone to DCW's 31st Conversation Hour. It's wonderful to have you all here. My name is Faz Anjum and I'll be your host for today's session. I'm currently an undergraduate student in data science at the Indian Institute of Technology, Madras. I also serve as a Wikimedian in residence at the Indian Institute of Technology, Delhi, and I am a youth leader fund scholar with the United Nations Office for Disarmament Affairs. I have been actively involved in the free knowledge movement for the past 3 years, working on projects that strengthen open access in individual partnerships. Today's session is part of our theme Wikimedia Residence Initiatives. We are focusing on a role that plays a vital role in connecting Wikimedia with knowledge holding institutions. To help us understand this role more deeply, we are joined by John Cummings. John is an experienced Wikimedian in residence and a strong advocate for open knowledge. He has over a decade of experience working with some of the world's leading institutions, including UNESCO and various UN agencies, helping them make their knowledge accessible through Wikimedia projects. John has involved in many major initiatives like Wiki for Women and has played a key role in Wikimedia's collaborations with WHO, UNEP, and FAO. His work exemplifies how Wikimedians in residence serve as bridges between institutions and the Wikimedia ecosystem. John, we're truly glad to have you here with us today. And before I give you the stage, I'd like to inform everyone that this session is being recorded. If you have any concerns regarding this recording, please feel free to reach out to me directly or mention it in the chat box. Over to you, John.
Thanks so much, and thank you so much for inviting me. Yeah, I think maybe I can talk for a little while, and then we can have a bit of the question and answer. And also, I'd love to get to meet you all, and we can have a discussion. I think that'd be really nice. It's a small group. It seems like that's manageable. So yeah, I'll just run through a little bit of the work that I've been doing over the past like 10 or so years. I'll use a slide deck of a presentation I gave for um, for a presentation I gave recently to an external audience. Um, so yeah, and then I can like add to it with some more kind of nerdy Wikipedia things. I hope that sounds okay. Let me just remember the button to share my screen. Uh, yeah, so hopefully you can see my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes, it is visible.
Okay, wonderful. So yeah, as I said, this is a presentation I gave. There's a thing happening at the moment in Japan called the World Expo, and this is a presentation I gave there. So yeah, just to introduce myself again, my name's John Cummings. I have two jobs within Wikimedia. So I work at Wikimedia Sweden, um, as their like partnership manager for the UN and other intergovernmental organizations, which is like an acronym IGO, and that just means things like European Space Agency, European Union, African Union, things like that that aren't quite, they're not as big as the UN, but they kind of are a collection of countries that run a project together. So yeah, I do that, and also I kind of do different jobs around the UN, and currently I'm the Wikimedia resident at the UN Food and Agriculture Organization. And I've previously worked, as you said, for WIPO, and I worked at UNESCO for like 5 or 6 years as their Wikimedian in residence. So I've kind of been around quite a lot of different parts of the UN. I'll just tell you a little bit about the UN. This isn't exhaustive. Maybe you know more than me about it, and I'm sure you have different experiences if you know something about it. So yeah, it was founded in 1945, so just at the end of World War II, and the idea was trying to stop another war happening, and to kind of encourage countries to work together. Um, Currently, between 2015 and 2030, they're working on something called the Sustainable Development Goals. And you can see these in the little boxes below, and these are kind of goals the countries are working together to reach. Previously to that, there was the Millennium Development Goals, which were kind of simpler than this. Yeah. So if we think about the UN, I often think about it as like a place for countries to get together and try and make agreements on kind of advancing different things. Um, yeah, one of the things that the UN does collates knowledge from all around the world. Tries to cover as many topics as possible. So it collates information from all the Sustainable Development Goals and some other things as well. Um, kind of um, the example you might have heard the most is when you hear something like this many children in the world are not in school or don't receive an education. That data is collated by UNESCO, which is part of the UN. But different parts of the UN collate data on different and information on different topics. Uh, and they produce this. They've been doing this for a long time. They produce this in publications and in data sets, and they also do things like there's photographers who go around the world and take photos of different things. This doesn't happen as much as it used to. But what this means is the UN has like huge archives of information going back like over 70 years. Yeah. So I often think of the UN as like we're trying to like create the sum total of human knowledge, and the UN's also trying to do that and like doing a lot of the hard work for us. And there are. I'm not going to pretend the UN is like a perfect set of organizations, but I think that they're like a valuable partner in like collating this knowledge from around the world. Um, yeah. As I said, this is a talk for an external audience, so there's a bit about Wikipedia in here. I'm sure you know all this already. This is maybe this is helpful or like interesting, and like I never call it Wikimedia really in my work. I always call it Wikipedia because that's the bit that people are familiar with, and it's sort of I guess in a corporate world, you'd say brand recognition. But I feel like when I'm trying to introduce people to a new topic or provide extra information, I don't generally explain what Wikimedia is, uh, because it's like if you're introducing five new concepts, like adding a sixth one isn't particularly helpful. But this is the broad mission that I present to people. This is a quote from Jimmy Wales from like a long time ago. But yeah, um, and this is how I present Wikipedia. This is generally how I do it to like a UN audience. So when I'm talking to people who are working in the UN, I generally work with fairly senior people, so like heads of publications, heads of communications, things like that. Um, and this is kind of like my pitch to them to work with Wikipedia in some way. So I'd say like it's very large and it's in a lot of languages. Like the UN produces information officially in six languages, so English, French, Spanish, Russian, Arabic, and Chinese. But it also wants to reach a global audience. So they also produce information in other languages as well. Um, the UN's like a lot of different organizations kind of glued together, and a lot of them are in different countries around the world. So you have something called a country office or a regional office, and they'll generally work in the language of that country or that region, or one of like a collection of languages from that country or that region. So um, yeah, that's kind of the language element of it. This is kind of the big bit is like 500 million people read over 15 billion Wikipedia articles every month. Like that's the big number people are looking for, really. Um, the UN has a long history of like sharing information with the public, but it kind of has quite a large problem in that um, it spends a lot of time and effort and money producing things like big publications, and they have quite a limited audience because they're like 200 to 300 pages long. So they have this like publication workflow where they're producing these big publications, and they have social media, which is very short things. They're just giving people like one fact or one bit of information. I kind of think about Wikipedia as in the middle somewhere where people aren't being expected to read like a big, huge document, but also like it's not just a tweet, is somewhere in the middle. And I think that people who work for the UN in publications or in communication generally like uh, understand this through their like lived experience using Wikipedia, that it's like a valuable tool lots of people use, but it's helpful to like add a number to it. Um, yeah, and then I say like how Wikipedia is made. So I'd say yeah, it's over 100,000 volunteers working together, and then I'd show some in when I do a presentation. I'll use photos like this. So these photos are from like Wiki Loves Monuments, Wiki Loves Earth, Wiki Loves Africa, those kinds of photography competitions, and I generally find like having nice photos is helpful. I also think like um, people who work for the UN generally want to make the world a better place in some way. Like they're like motivated by like ideals, I guess you could say. And I think that like coming from if their experience is Wikipedia as like an organization rather than like they don't have the concept of like Wikimedia as like a set of organizations working together, that they understand that Wikimedia is a or how I'd present it, Wikipedia is a like a not-for-profit, it's an educational resource. They understand that it's like a we're not trying to sell them anything basically. And you know, as you imagine, with any big organization, lots of people are trying to sell them stuff all the time. So it's nice to for them to know that like we're also kind of doing it through uh what I'd call intrinsic values, like something like, you know, kindness and wanting people to get a better education. Um, yeah, so I can just talk you through a few bits of the work we've done, and I'll show you some examples. So in this talk, I did was like 5 minutes long, so there's not much detail in there. So I'll tab out and I'll just show you a couple of examples. Um, yeah, so this is how we described it. So we want to educate public about some of the most important issues in the world. So what I showed you earlier, the Sustainable Development Goals, and that's what the UN's kind of collating information around. Um, yeah, and to say like the UN employs a lot of experts. Like there's a huge number of experts working in the UN. I'm doing a project at the moment with a guy who we're improving the articles about a certain kind of fly that carry like a really unpleasant disease that uh, a lot of people get. It's carries something called African sleeping sickness, which is really, really unpleasant. And when I was showing him the Wikipedia articles for these flies, he was giving me some improvements, and he was referencing all the references he did were for his own publications, and I was like, maybe we should use some other people's publications. He's like, no, I'm the world expert on this thing. Like genuinely, like I wrote the book on this. So that it's really like a privilege to work with people who are like so knowledgeable and care so much about these topics. Um, yeah, so the first thing I'll talk to you about is oh, and if you have questions, please put them in the chat, and then we can like go back to them afterwards if that's okay. Um, yeah, so first thing I'd say is like, as I said, the UN's producing a lot of publications, like a lot of written text. There's some of the smaller publications and some are much larger. Um, just as an example, there's one called the UNESCO Science Report, and that's like 700 pages long. It's a big book. It's like this thick. And that collates like information on science around the world and what's happened kind of in science that year. But generally, the publications are a couple of hundred pages long. Um, and when I got to UNESCO like 10 years ago, I had this idea that, oh, I could teach people how to write Wikipedia. Like I like I'm from Britain and we sent a lot of Christian missionaries around the world like a couple of hundred years ago. And I kind of thought a bit like that, oh, we can just teach people how to write on Wikipedia and everyone can contribute. And I was quickly reminded that like these are very busy people with not very much time. Um, but fortunately, like a lot of parts of the UN and where I was working at the moment at that time, UNESCO, they produce content under an open license, so their text we can just copy and paste it into Wikipedia. So I came up with some instructions and like a proper process to copy and paste text into Wikipedia, and a way of measuring like which articles use text from which publications. I'm just going to check the chat. I feel like I'm talking too quickly and not. Uh, oh, I've never done anything with Indonesia. Um, how do we limit the boundaries when doing? I don't understand that question. If you can like elaborate a little bit, I'd be super happy to answer that. Um, Yeah, so I came up with a process to copy and paste text from a publication into Wikipedia if it's under a compatible license. So I'll just tab out of this and show you an example. So let's go to this is this was the first example that I did when I was first getting this to work. Um, So UNESCO had just published a publication called A Teacher's Guide to Preventing Violent Extremism. So it's quite a serious topic. Like not everything the UN does is quite that serious, but you know, I started with something like that because I was working with someone who was writing that publication. So what we did is like I created the publication by I created the Wikipedia article by copying and pasting text from the publication into Wikipedia. Um, Most of the work I do is in English. I also speak bad French, but actually, a lot of other Wikimedians have kind of found things that I've shared from the UN and brought them into lots of languages, and I can kind of talk about that. That's the next thing to talk about. But at the moment, I'll just talk about the work I've done in English with text. So we copied and pasted the text into Wikipedia and formed this article called Violent Extremism. And if you scroll down to the bottom of the article, you will see that there are like these credits for the source of the text. This is something that I made. So this is the first article that we took text from. And we've kind of improved it over time with text from other UN publications. And obviously, Wikimedians have come in and improved this over time and done translations. And some of these graphics are also from the UN. I think this one's probably from UNESCO. So it's kind of like the text from the UN kind of get it started to quite a high standard because it's experts writing the content, and then Wikimedians have come in and like kind of improved things over time and kept things updated and stuff like that. Um, yeah, so as I said, I'm also working with an expert on something called a tsetse fly, which is a group of flies that carry a really horrible disease. Um, yeah, so we've added text from UN publications, mostly from UNESCO, but also from UN Food and Agriculture and WIPO, which is like the World Intellectual Property Office, and some other parts of the UN. And we've copied and pasted that into Wikipedia, and some other Wikimedians have come along and kind of helped over time. Uh, and we've added information to about 400 articles, and these are seen about 10 million times a month. So for Wikimedia, maybe that's not a huge audience, but for the UN, actually, that is quite a large audience for their text. Um, they don't have they have a lot of experts and policymakers reading the publication text, but they don't really have a very large um, general public reading their publications, maybe some researchers, maybe university students, stuff like that. But when when like I've that first publication on violent extremism, we actually found that every day people I think it was like 1,000 visitors to the Wikipedia article every day, and the publication had been read like 200 times in 3 months or something. So it's a really valuable way of the UN like reaching quite a large audience with their content. I've just remembered something really important to say. It did start off with just me in the UN, but it's expanded to more people as well. So we have uh, 3 people now working with WIPO, and there's also other people working in the UN. I will share a link to the end so you can see the big list of people who are doing this now. Um, and I think there's like we could talk about this later, but I think there's so much opportunity to work with the UN. It's such a valuable partner, and there's so much of it. Like it's not like it's quite a large organization. They don't have a lot of resources, but they're very willing and generally really understand Wikipedia as an educational resource. Yeah, sorry, I think I'm going slightly off topic several times. I'll just show you the next thing. So the next thing I can show you is images. So this is I've split this up into like different kinds of content. So images are a collection of graphics from publications, but then there's also photographs. So the graphics are made specifically for the publications. So there's one here that's like, um, what's that? Forestry. There's one from UNFAO, the Food and Agriculture Organization on forestry. Uh, and this one is on obesity. So this is, I think, from World Health Organization. So they collect data from all around the world and they make these really nice graphics. But also, as I said, they're photographers. This top left one is from I think it was like the 1970s. There was a really bad flood in a Italian city, and a museum got flooded. And this is people washing the artworks in the subway station under the sink. So, like, the UN has so many photographs from like 70 plus years that each UN agency has hundreds of thousands of photographs just sort of sitting in their archives, much of it undigitized. But it's such a valuable resource. And they do stuff that no one else can do. So there's at UNESCO, the photos I remember, there were photos from inside refugee camps, in schools and refugee camps. And like that's not something the general public can take photographs of. It's really yeah, they're really special images and I can talk a little bit more about that. Um yeah, yeah, there's a lot of really valuable kind of image content that the UN produces. Um and the photographs kind of work across languages, so they're not limited to the six UN languages. The graphics are generally in the six UN languages, but they do get used in other language Wikipedias as well. I think there's a question, but I can't see here we go. Um, okay, cool. We can talk about that afterwards. That sounds great. Um, yeah, so we have shared about 6,000 photos and graphics from UN agencies, which are seen about 18 million times a month. This is a bit slightly out of date number. So I've recently done a project with UNRWA, which is the UN agency for Palestinian refugees, and they've very kindly been sharing photographs, both from their archives, but also they have a photographer in Gaza now who's photographing what's happening there. And so they've released like a couple of hundred images, I think it is now, um, about what's happening there. And obviously, those are very widely seen on Wikipedia. And it's something that, I don't think we could ever ask a commercial, like news agency to share. I think maybe Al Jazeera has once shared some images, but it's a fairly unique opportunity working with someone like UNRWA. Um, so yeah, and I think that for the UN agencies, they recognize the value of the resources they have, of their images, their photographs, and their graphics, and we're just a huge audience for them. And I think that that's really nice to be able to like people have put so much effort and time in producing this content, and we can find a really large audience for them. Um, yeah. Uh, So yeah, the other kind of content I think about is data. Um, I'd love your thoughts on this. Like, I really struggle with the data side of it. I'll just show you two examples. So we've added data from UN Food and Agriculture um, on forestry. So we say like forestry cover in a country. So um, if you go to the let me just show you. If we go to the Wikipedia article for Afghanistan, for instance, uh, okay. Um, So what I've done, they have a database of like facts about forest cover. So UN Food and Agriculture have a database about forest cover in each country. And so what I did was I turned it into like a couple of sentences, and I've added those to all of the country articles. Haven't quite finished that yet. That's something that I'm working on at the moment. But this is a way to get like up to date, high quality data into Wikipedia in a way that's like seen by a lot of people. Um, and maybe there's some tweaking with the text we can do, but I think this is a way of getting high quality data from the UN into Wikipedia. Um, a lot of people have suggested to me, oh, we also did something similar with World Heritage Sites as well. So we added data into World Heritage Sites on like, when they were when they were recognized as World Heritage Sites and which country they're in, that kind of thing. A lot of people have suggested to me working with Wikidata. Um, I have tried that a little bit, but I've never found it really works very well. I think it's a lot of effort. I'm not a particularly technical person. Like, I don't have a computer science background or anything like that. Like, I'm Googling how to do basic stuff in spreadsheets most of the time. Like, I'm not a technical person at all. And I've invested at the start, I invested quite a lot of time into like trying to add the data into Wikidata. And I think it's got two problems for me. Like, one is that it takes ages, it's quite labor intensive, or you have to be very good at like spreadsheets and uploading stuff to Wikidata. And the other thing is, I can't provide any metrics back to the UN agencies about this. Like, I can say, like, oh, we added like, I know, 20,000 facts to Wikidata. A, they're not really, most people within the UN wouldn't know what Wikidata was. And B, like, I can't provide them with information about the audience of Wikidata. There's not really any, how do I say this? I can't do the same thing as I do with images. I can't say like, oh yeah, 10,000 people saw what you put on Wikipedia. There's not that like uh, they can't see the investment they've made. Like they can't see the outcome of it. And I think that's kind of like might improve over time, but it's not something that I'm spending much time on really because uh, it's uh, it's not really I can't show the value of it, and I know it's valuable. Like I know Wikidata is useful. I'm just struggling to stick those two things together. Um, yeah. So the, the I'll show you the slide and then I'll show you another presentation. Um uh, just for like a few minutes, I'll just show you some like practical examples. So the amazing thing about working with the UN is they're so connected to other organizations. They all have like membership. They have obviously they have the countries who are members of the UN, but they also work with a lot of like specialist organizations and charities around the world and stuff like that. Um, so a big part of my job over the past like 10 years now is like helping different parts of the UN share content on Wikipedia. So a lot of like advocacy for open licensing and like helping them with the open licensing part of the kind of sharing content on Wikipedia. They all have lawyers who can give them like technical legal answers. I just provide them with like the if you can open license this content, I can find a big audience for it. You can like share it with a lot of people. Um, yeah, but as I said, like there's the member states of the different parts of the UN. And I worked on a project with them that was run by Wikimedia Sweden, and we basically asked the different countries, please give us your databases of cultural heritage institutions, and we'll put them in Wikidata. Um, and that was quite successful. We got, I think, like 20,000, no, 40,000 new GLAMs on Wikidata. And that's kind of like we can show them a nice map of like where they of like the new coverage on Wikidata, but also it can help with things like Wikilove's monuments and kind of other kind of bits of Wikipedia. It kind of shows what's missing from Wikipedia, which kind of like cultural institutions don't have a Wikipedia article. And it's also really useful for the member states as well. Like the idea is like we would eventually have some kind of interface that they could search for lists of cultural heritage institutions in their countries. And like lack of knowledge about where these cultural heritage institutions is like a genuine problem for some countries. Like, um, I think it was in Nepal. There was an earthquake several years ago where lots of the cultural heritage institutions got damaged, so the museums' roofs fell in and stuff like that. But because there was a lack of knowledge about where these institutions were, actually most of the damage from the artifacts came from rain like a week later. So it basically the roof fell in because of the earthquake and then everything got rained on. Um, yeah, the other thing I'd say is like the UN has like quite a large social media presence. So when I worked at UNESCO, we were able to promote Wikilove's monuments and Wikilove's Earth, and I think Wikilove's Africa as well. Yeah, we promoted all three. And our best guess is we got about 40,000 extra photos Wikilove monuments that year, based on the promotion from UNESCO and also the UN social media accounts. So it's like they're really happy to think about kind of encouraging people to take part in Wikimedia work as long as it's like suitable for the general public. Um, yeah, I'm very aware of the time. I've been talking for quite a long time now. Um, shall I just stop sharing my screen? Should we finish there and I'll see the questions and maybe we can have a chat? Does that sound okay?
Whatever you're comfortable with works.
Great. Um, I'll just show you I'll show you I've talked a lot and I didn't really show you practical examples of some things. Um, let me just find the right. Hmm. Yeah, let's just do that as I'll keep looking for the right presentation as I as I answer the questions in the chat. This one. Sorry, just a second. Um, where is it? No, that's an old one. Okay, I'll as I'm answering the questions, I'll try and search in my Google Drive and find the right presentation. Um, okay, so let's see. Um, I've been in some residence in Indonesia area for. Could you elaborate? No, but that so generally how it's worked is I've tried to create opportunities for people in different countries. Um, if you would like to work with your country office, I'd be super happy to try and help make that work. Um, yeah, just let me know what you're thinking about. Different parts of the UN have like different country officers or I think they're called like cluster officers by some UN agencies. So if you have ideas, please do get in touch. I, it it feels it feels like a really nice thing to do to like put people in touch with the UN people in their country because it's like any kind of organization. a recommendation from inside the organization that you work with someone, it really helps a lot. So with me, with my UN email address, that really helps sometimes to kind of introduce people. So if you'd like to do something with your country office, please do get in touch, and I'll leave my email address and stuff. It might be in the invitation already, I'm not sure, but I'll share it with you. How do you limit the boundaries when doing Wikimedia residence projects to avoid possible biases? I don't really understand that. Is it a question about is there bias within the work the UN does, or is it a question about like um something else? I don't quite understand that one. If you're able to like talk and we can talk through it if that's helpful.
Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, yeah. Hey.
Yeah. Um, I mean for avoid some possibly biases, because you focus under some organization in WIR, right?
Yeah, yeah.
The sources is ensure is uh objective, totally objective, or
Yeah.
yes, sometimes like when we are writing something, we write our opinion, right? Or I'm still don't, yeah, WIR not really understand, but sometimes when we are writing something, just simply how to avoid any biases, focus on
Yeah.
the sources or something else maybe. Thank you.
Uh,
Yeah. So
uh, Sorry, I think this question is regarding conflict of interest with respect to
yeah.
the
Yeah,
institution.
so correct. Conflict of interest.
Okay, great. Yeah, so there's a couple of things to say about that. Like, I never really write about the UN on Wikipedia. I always explain it as a place to share your knowledge, not promote your organization. Um, I often get emails from people from like the communications department saying we want to improve the Wikipedia article about our agency, or we want to have a Wikipedia article about your our like project we're working on or something like that. And I'm pretty clear with them. That's not what my job is. Um, and I say if you want to improve the article about your that part of the UN, so it could be like, yeah, whichever agency it is, I say if you give me some corrections with good quality references, I'll put something on the talk page for you and someone else can review that change. That's how I generally work if someone asks me to do that. Um, I think that there is bias. How do I say this? I don't know. I'm not a topic expert on like, out of school children or this particular disease that I've been working on this Wikipedia with these people. I trust that. So all the UN agencies are considered a reliable source on Wikipedia, or at least English Wikipedia. And I just I guess like I I don't know a way of knowing if there is bias within the content they produce. Everyone has bias, right? So, um, I kind of I think of like sharing text content from a UN agency as like a Wikipedia contribution, like a normal Wikipedia contribution, and that everyone has bias, and that by people working together on articles, we can kind of like smooth that out over time. So I said the article on violent extremism, that's been added to and changed over time, and hopefully that will become like, more expansive and have more references and like include more stuff and that kind of thing. So I kind of think about the UN as like an expert contributor in the same way as like a professor from a university would be or something like that. We're just like, taking content from a lot of expert contributors and they're putting it together and then we're adding it to Wikipedia. Yeah, I hope that answers your question. I I think that I'm sure there's a lot of difference between different that language versions of Wikipedia, so I don't pretend to know all the rules for all of the different. Oh, you're welcome. Um, I will just show you one more slide. I just want to show you like practical examples of stuff because I think I just talked at you a lot and I don't know how helpful that is. Um, so when I said where is it? Yeah, so when I said we asked governments for data about cultural institutions, this is the difference we're able to make. So uh, hang on. So where is it? So the pink was all the stuff that we added. So obviously there's a lot of stuff in the US. We were able to add like Wikidata items for a lot of places in Africa, like all across Africa. We were really lucky, like a lot of African countries shared their data. And obviously like Eastern Europe and there's kind of stuff you can't see as well because the map is so zoomed out. But we managed to add, I think, like 40,000 extra points to it. And also this is what I'd show you in when I talked about the UN promoting Wiki Loves Monuments. This and like the different parts of the UN. So this is UNESCO promoting Wiki Loves Africa. And these are real tweets, like I just did screenshots. And this is the UN main, so I guess Twitter account promoting Wiki Loves Monuments. And like the main UN Twitter account's like 10 million followers or something ridiculous. So I think it's a real good example of like how to encourage people to share kind of openly and contribute to something. Um, I missed this out. I forgot about this. This happened quite a long time ago. So we created a photo exhibition about cultural heritage in danger, using photographs from Wikimedia. This is the Director General of UNESCO, which is quite nice. She came to see the photography competition, photography exhibition I put together. But also the UN kind of took it around the world. So this is in Geneva. This is like a town in Spain somewhere, and then this is in Stockholm. I don't really know where it was in Stockholm, but yeah, I don't know. The UN's like a really large and interesting organization to work for, and there's lots of opportunities. Um, yeah, but I just thought I'd show you like actually what stuff looks like rather than talk at you for so long. Um, yeah, please just ask your questions. You don't need to type them in the chat. Or if you have any comments, if I can do something better or different, or if you see an opportunity, that'd be great.
Hi, John. I actually had a question.
Please go ahead.
So I'd like to ask, I am associated with the United Nations Office for Disarmament Affairs, and I have recently joined. I've recently joined one of their programs as a scholar, and I would like
Great.
to ask, how can I possibly pitch them to collaborate with me and, release data with the Wikimedia, in the Wikimedia ecosystem, and how should I how should I approach them? How do you do it?
Okay, so I don't think I have a standardized approach. I think it depends on the agency because each part of the UN produces quite different content. So, for example, the project I do with UNRWA, so the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees, a lot of the content they produce is photographs. They've got a huge photo archive. In fact, it's one of the largest UN photo archives, and it's also in the Memory of the World project, which is like a recognition of like some of the most important archives in the world. Um, my discussion and pitch to them was quite different to, um, let's say, FAO, like UN Food and Agriculture, where I work at the moment. Most of their work is around data and research rather than like they do have some photos, but they don't have like as many, and it's not. I don't think it's unique in the same way as like the UNRWA one is. But honestly, I would start with having a look at what they produce. Maybe have a discussion with someone who knows the content well, and then understanding what they might be willing to release. I mean, it doesn't all rely on open licenses. Like adding data to Wikidata doesn't rely on them releasing the whole data set under CC0. Um, adding like you can't copy and paste text directly, obviously, if it's not under an open license, but you could do could think about like how to use the knowledge from their publications in Wikipedia as references. It kind of depends what they've got and what their aims are. Have like try and do some research around their aims on relate to public education. Um, I'd be super happy to like have a discussion with you and like go through it with you. And at UNFAO, we've been like really lucky that we've got a lawyer who's a copyright expert. He's able to like have that like legal discussion with different parts of the UN, and also WIPO, which is the UN World Intellectual Property Organization. They have like a legal department who are able to help different parts of the UN with open licensing. Um, it's I can provide you with some slides on like what's been done with other agencies, and that's kind of like I always think of it like here's the opportunity, and look, these other people have done it, and nothing has really gone wrong. I feel like those are the two like things that I use. But yeah, let's have a discussion about it sometime. I'd love to like um yeah, I'd love to work with you on it. I'm
Surely, I
sorry,
would.
that's not
Yeah,
maybe not the like most straightforward answer. It's really dependent on who you're talking to because in the end, the organization is just a group of people who it takes different things to convince them about different things. So
right. But
it's yeah.
it was really nice to hear your answer. And I'd surely love to catch up with you later. And thank you very
Oh,
much for your valuable
you're welcome.
information. Yeah, let's move on to the next question.
Hi everyone. I hope I'm audible.
Mm. Please go ahead.
Hello. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Hi, John. It was
Mm.
interesting and very insightful to listen to you and the work that you're doing. So I was looking forward to this session. I myself, I am Afaf Nasir, research scholar in international relations. So my research focuses on India, Saudi Arabia's strategic cooperation under Vision 2030. And as a person, I'm deeply interested in knowledge diplomacy and the role open access platforms like Wikimedia can play in shaping global narratives. As someone who aspires to work with the UN, and I just told you that I am working on this topic. I was just curious, how can early career researchers or PhD scholars engage with either Wikimedia's work or the UN? Like, what would be the right path? Again, it would be a very huge and an open-end question if I say pathway, but the opportunities that I can look for. That is what I was just wondering if you can just put some light to it.
So there was a little bit that cut out in the middle there. So I hope that I've got the question. Um, so in terms of like academics, learning how to like think about Wikipedia and work with Wikipedia to kind of educate people about different topics. Um, I'm completely not the expert on this. I would really encourage you to reach out to people who are Wikimedians in residence at universities. There's a
Mm-hmm.
couple in the UK that I can give you the contact details for. There's some really nice models for different ways of like academics writing yeah, academics working with Wikipedia. Um, in terms of like, I think the other part of the question is like how to work with the UN. Was that the other
Yes,
part?
yes,
Okay,
exactly.
so um, unfortunately, a lot of the UN works on unpaid internships. This is like the
Mm-hmm.
part of the bit that I don't like about the UN is like so much unpaid internship stuff. But depending on your age, there is um, a program called JPO, I think it's called, like Junior Professionals. Have a Google.
Oh yeah.
I think
Yes.
I know quite a few people who've worked in the UN,
All
who've
right.
got in through that program.
Mhm.
And yeah, I think it's quite good. You can also so I only know this through like my friends who work in the UN, how they kind of got into it. There's also some governments pay for internships in the UN, so they will sponsor you. I know the Chinese government does it, the Canadian government. There might be something in the Indian government. There's a big UNESCO education center in Delhi. I think it's Mahatma Gandhi Education Center or something like that. They do a lot of education research. Just do some research about what parts of the UN are in kind of near where you. Yeah, you can have. Of course, you can have the slides. That's fine. I can send them. We can send them out. But yeah, please get in touch with me, and I'll give you slightly less rambling answer, something a little more concrete, and I can send you some links. And I can also introduce you to the people I know who work in universities who will know a lot better about how academics come out with Wikipedia. There's also a lot of researchers who research Wikipedia as their like research. I have a friend who got her PhD by researching Wikipedia. So yeah, there's a lot of opportunities, I think.
Okay, John.
Yeah.
Thank you for your answer. And a few things that you mentioned in your answer are something that I've researched, but because we're running short of time, I would like to contact you later and get
Yeah,
back to
sure.
you on this. Yeah,
Great.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, I think we're at the end of our session now. And first of all, I'd like to thank you.
I just want to mention here, there's Punkas who wants the slide presentation. Is it possible for you, John, to share that?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
please do that. And there are people who want your contact email. They're eager to contact you. A lot of questions they
Sure, that's
have.
fine. Yeah, we can send it out in the email after the talk. That's fine. Does that sound? Is that a good way of doing it?
You can just put your email in the chat box and the
Oh
presentation link
yeah.
if you have.
Yeah. Let me give you my year-end one. Okay, that's my year-end email. Let me just send you the presentation. So that's like a larger presentation that I borrowed a couple of slides from, and then this is the one that I gave at Osaka. Sorry, just let me load this up. Yeah. So yeah, if you'd like to do a project with the UN, if you've got ideas, please get in touch with me. I'd love to help you. I feel like there's so much opportunity. Like I worked at UNESCO for 5 years, and I think I got about 2% of their content on Wikipedia. Like it's just never ending. There's so much content. If anyone can think of like sustainable ways of funding all this work, would love to hear from you. Haven't worked that out after so many years, but yeah.
All right, thank you so much, John, for taking the time to walk us through the core values of the UN, how it works, and also information about Wikipedia, and for showing us how information from UN publications can be integrated into Wikipedia, like their images, the data, their publications, all sort of stuff. We're also grateful for the practical demonstration that you shared on data integration and the use of real world information. And, it gave us a clear understanding of how institutional knowledge can enrich Wikimedia projects. Your insights and experiences have been incredibly valuable, And we really appreciate your time, expertise, and commitment to the free knowledge movement. Thank you once again for being with us today, and I hope that we got many of the questions answered, and I hope it was a really fruitful session today. Thank you for joining us, John. If
Thanks for having me. It's lovely.
Yeah, thank you very much, and I hope a recording of this will be made available to watch later. And yes, hope to see you guys in the next conversation hour. Thank you so much, John. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining.
Thank you.